This is a wax head of Albert Einstein. And what makes this different than all the other wax heads of Albert Einstein you've seen? Stick around and I'll tell you. Check it out. Hey everyone, Curtis here again, and today I'd like to talk to you about Albert Einstein. Mostly some of the artifacts that we have in the collection that deal with Albert Einstein. Now, I do have a few smaller pieces here I think are worth kind of just showing and mentioning, but we're going to really get to the good one here that was shown in the intro in a second, because this wax head of Albert Einstein is unlike any other wax head of him you've ever seen. But before we dive into that, I do want to show you a couple of the smaller pieces here, and I think this probably works good for a close-up. Right here, we actually have Albert Einstein, and he has been painted on an egg. Now, the egg isn't terribly big, as you can see, but the likeness is very much like Einstein. And for those of you Ripley fans that have sharp eyes, you're going to notice that this is actually sitting on top of a bottle whimsy. We'll maybe talk about those at another point, but for right now, we're here to talk about this Einstein egg, which is quite remarkable when you think how small this thing actually is. Now, another piece that I'd like to show you guys is more of a collection that we have, but does include Einstein. Here we actually have a book of over 200 signatures, important signatures, sports figures, political figures, all sorts of things that are on matchbooks. We kind of have them here all laid out by sport or whatnot, but there's about 200 of them, and they're all significant figures, but I have marked here Albert Einstein's, because he is definitely included in the collection. So you can see right here, A. Einstein 53, which would be Albert Einstein's signature. Again, for you Ripley fans that have good vision and things like that, check out all the background and stuff. I actually really like the one underneath here too as well. That's Helen Keller, but we'll maybe do a video about that later. But he is part of this autograph collection that we do have, about one of the 250 signatures that are inside of this book. But now I'd like to dive into the real reason of this video, and that is this wax head. Now, what I'm going to try to do is bring this a little bit closer to me, like this, so that you can get a little bit of a closer look, because it's definitely worth it. Now, what sets this apart from any other Einstein wax head, we've all seen them in wax museums around the world, are two major things. The first is this was actually taken directly from Albert Einstein's face. So, obviously, when you think of wax figures, the first thing that probably comes to your mind is Madame Tussauds. Madame Tussauds, especially in the early days, was very much over in England, in the UK, and over there. But the true queen that they call the American wax was a lady named Katherine Stuberg. If you were famous in the early 1900s, you sat for Katherine. We're talking Walt Disney, Bela Lugosi, Albert Einstein. All of these people sat and wanted wax figures done by her. Einstein came to the States in the early 30s, and one of the first things he said was, I want a wax figure, and I want a wax figure from Katherine. So he actually sat down and did this casting. So what they did is they rubbed goop all over Einstein's face and then peeled it off, and using that negative made a copy of his face, and that would be this. This was the first one to come off of the run. It was eventually molded so that multiple copies could be made, but this was the first one from Katherine. And Albert was so pleased with this, and little funny side fact, when he sat for this, she didn't speak any German and he didn't speak any English, yet they got along just fine and were able to make this piece together. And like I said, Albert Einstein was so happy with this that he actually signed this very first one for her. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get a close-up of this, because obviously as the years have gone through, some of this has deteriorated a little bit, rubbed off, but it actually says, Katherine, much thanks, and then you can see his signature right there, Albert Einstein. So he was so pleased with this, and actually Katherine was so pleased with this, that this ended up staying in her private collection until her passing, where it was sold to one other wax museum and then eventually found its way into our collection. Not only the closest likeness you will ever find of Einstein, but also an incredible story and then an amazing signature to kind of top it off. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This really is one of my favorite pieces, although maybe not the most dramatic at first glance. Once you jump into the story, there's really nothing like this in the collection, and it's something we're very happy to have. I hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time.